Hey guys, welcome to another edition of the Pressplay podcast. I'm joined by my friend Ryan Rottman of Athleteagent. Ryan comes from a fascinating background of being an actor and also a co-founder of a amazing startup called Athleteagent. They're building the IMDb of professional sport. So welcome, Ryan.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here and talk about everything. Let's dive
Yeah,
in.
absolutely. So maybe to start, if you want to introduce yourself really quick, and we get into the meat of what you're building with Athlete Agent.
Yeah, absolutely. Ryan Rottman, 41, loves golf, short walks on the beach. Yeah, so originally a small town boy from Texas. Grew up in a small town called Lufkin, and I really get to live that country life, which was really it was great because you get to do a lot of like riding dirt bikes and I played a ton of golf, and that's where I kind of, I'd say, learned a lot of lessons that I would take forward into my life in business. Um, I think I always say the biggest thing I always took out of golf and how it adheres into business is when you play golf with someone, you're spending 4 hours of your time with them. Most lunch meetings or network events, you're just chatting with someone. You have an hour maybe, but with golf,
Right.
you're sitting in a cart next to them. You're chatting for 4 hours, and then you really learn how someone handles adversity. How do they handle themselves when they hit the golf ball out of bounds or in the water? Do they cheat? Do they have a foul mouth? Do they lose their temper? Because then you can translate that into business. Because if they're going to do it on the golf course where you're just playing against yourself, they're going to do it in business as well, as maybe as a partner or whatever it may be. So that's something I really took from golf. But yeah, I played a lot of golf. Ended up going to Texas Tech and studying business with a minor in theater, and that was my Texas Tech was kind of my first taste into theater
Hmm.
and acting, because again, small town in Texas, theater is not really the the prime focus. So I had that taste, ended up going to kind of saying, what the hell? And I went to LA one summer to go to, oddly enough, New York Film Academy, which is in Los Angeles, which makes no sense. But I went there and, again, back to start of business was networking and being out in LA and just meeting a ton of fascinating people and people that ended up the next summer going out and interning for on a film called Starsky and Hutch with Ben Stiller and Owen Wilson, and
Wow. Yeah.
got to learn a lot about the business and become friends with a lot of those guys. And through those connections, got introduced to a manager who then said, "I'll rep you, but you have to move to LA." And I had that conversation with my folks of like, I've got this opportunity to go try my hand at acting, and thankfully both my parents immediately snapped it and just said, "You have to go, because if you don't, you'll regret the rest of your life. You can always go back to whatever it may be, but go try it." And so,
Right.
and through college, I built up some little nest egg of from day trading. I got really into that. That's probably what I would have done had I not gone straight into acting. But
Wow.
so I
Really.
didn't have to bartend, which was great. And yeah, went out to LA and you know been there. I've been there for 20 some years acting, and thankfully, after the first year, started booking stuff. And once you book something, you think it lasts forever, and then it doesn't. And yeah, and through that, just as an actor, you really have to diversify if
Mhm.
you want to create wealth. And got
Right.
into owning a bar and different funds and businesses, and really because I always had that, like, because I studied business, I always had that love for it.
Mm.
And my time as an actor and producer really is what drove me into Athlete Agent. It was the
Nice.
basis and the founding of that.
That's amazing. Wow. That's quite a trajectory from Texas to LA, and now, acting and then Athlete Agent. That's amazing. So, Ryan, tell us what, I know that Athlete Agent started out as OSDB.
Mm-hmm.
What made you start? What did you see as a pain point for you to come up with the idea of building an IMDb of professional sport?
Well, as an actor, IMDb it's your business card. It's every time you walk in an audition room, your IMDb page is pulled up. They're
Mm.
referencing or asking questions about different filmography you've had or what you have upcoming. And whenever asked when everyone's like, "Oh, what movies have you been in? What TV shows did you do?" You're not going to sit there and list your whole resume. You can check out my IMDb page. And
Right.
most people may not have known they've been to the site, but anytime you again Google any actor, you're watching a TV show and you're like, "What have they been in?" You Google it, it's going to open up IMDb, right? Like it's the go-to source. It was bought in 1998 for 55 million by Amazon, and now it's worth over three billion. The 88 million registered users, so it's scaled.
Mm.
But because of that in acting, and I'd done a show called 90210 for a few years, and a producer from the Hallmark Channel saw me on there, looked at my IMDb Pro account, which showed my contact information for my agents and my managers, reached out, and because that information was correct, I've since done almost 9 Hallmark films for them. Now, had it not been correct, I would have missed out on that income, those jobs, and they probably would have just gone to the next person on the list. Well, that really stuck with me of this is super beneficial to me as an actor. I know a ton of athletes. All athletes want to be actors and all actors want to be athletes. It's just how it works. It's hilarious. But I knew a lot of athletes, and one of those being Aaron Rodgers, the quarterback for the Steelers, or then was Green Bay, because it's years and years and years and years ago. Again, met on the golf course. I saw how he acted. We bonded over films and golf, and that's how we became buddies. But knew that not that it was specific for Aaron, but that people on his O-line and stuff their best friends were their managers, or they were not getting deal flow. And I just always had this idea of well, if it works in the entertainment, why would it not work in sport?
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a dinner. I'll never forget. It was a dinner in Costa Vega in Studio City with Aaron. There's the two of us having dinner, and we were chatting about something. I said, Aaron, I've had this thing that's just been bothering me for a long time. Why is there not an IMDb for athletes? And not just the 1%, but everyone. Tom Cruise has an IMDb. I have an IMDb. And he was like, yeah, that's actually makes a ton of sense. There's a white space for this. Why isn't there? And I was like, see, there's a need for it. And he was like,
right,
hell, let's do it. So then I was like, all right. So then that started the trajectory of what it was. And I think a couple of the different things of him knowing that it needed to be a thing, right? Not necessarily for him, but for all the guys that he knew that weren't getting endorsement deals or could be, or missing out on certain things. And then knowing that everyone in entertainment looked to it, not even actors, but agents, key grips, producers, directors, everyone. And there's sport has a bigger TAM than entertainment. So
absolutely,
yeah. So that's what made us really, kind of gave us the window to say, hey, there's something here. There's a white space, and it needs to be done. And there are some people that do showcase mainly entertainment stuff, but have some athletes. But they only showcase, again, the top 2% of, you look at a roster like the Lakers, and they'll show you LeBron, right? But they won't show you the entire roster. And that's where we really trump everyone, is that we have every athlete on the roster with contact information.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I mean, if you think about it, of course, you have the current athletes who are playing the sport, but then you also have the retired athletes.
Mm-hmm.
I remember talking to you earlier, and of course, from what it sounds like, also is that once someone retires, usually the shelf life is short, or not as long as say acting.
Oh yeah.
What do you do as life after professional sport?
Yep.
And of course, I'm assuming that's also a big part of what you want to go after.
Yeah, and kind of back to what you said earlier about starting out as OSDB and having that pivot into athlete agent, is we started out with every athlete for the sport, right? So we did the 5 majors, so NFL, MLB, NBA, MLS, and NHL.
Mm-hmm.
And we did, with all the athletes, it was 60,000. Well, we're a startup, right? And that's a lot of data to keep accurate
Mm,
because the retired athletes don't change as much, right? Their endorsement deals, their business ventures, philanthropy may change, but their contracts are, you know, what they were. They're not going anywhere. And the representation usually stays the same once they've retired. But as we add new sports and, you know, new players are coming in, it became such a heavy lift because our moat is that this is manual labor, right? Like you can't just scrape this information because if it's not accurate, then the customer is not getting the value, right?
mm,
So if the email address you get for Aaron doesn't work, then what are you paying for? And so with
right.
with with OSDB, a couple of things on that front was everyone always said ODB, which like remind me of Old Dirty Bastard, the rapper. But it was that for us initially, it was that tie into IMDb,
Mm,
right? Like, okay, if people hear OSDB, they'll think of IMDb. They'll understand
database.
the yeah.
Yeah.
So people either could say it or they had trouble with it, and I wanted to be everything, right? I wanted to go up against ESPN with stats and editorial and all these different avenues. And again, as like I listened to the customer and looked at our SEO, which I never thought I'd be obsessed with, but now I love SEO. Um, and people weren't coming to us for stats or for editorial; they were coming for our differentiators because it's really hard. I mean, Apple even tried it. It's really hard to get people away from ESPN or so you know even DraftKings or whatever to look at stats, right? Like they're just the behemoths in the realm, and that's it.
Mm,
And then editorial, there's so many different options to go out to, like finding interesting stories, new writers, and that was also our biggest cost associated with the business was those two avenues.
mm,
Was paying writers, like getting images and created as well as buying the images, and then the cost from like a sports radar. It
mm.
just we were on the startup cost, which was ending, and you know it's like $6,000 per sport, and we want to grow to 50 sports, right? So
Wow.
all of any
Yeah.
revenue we generate is pretty much just going right back out to them. And if no
Yeah.
one's coming for it, then why house it? So it was different things like that in and having too much athletes on the site for the size we were, and
Got it.
it was a really hard moment to say like, hey, we need to pivot here, and
Mm,
we need to put our like horse blinders on, and really get focused on why people are coming. And that was a really hard decision as a founder to say like, okay, maybe I bit off a little more than I can chew, like
mm.
by rebranding the name to Athlete Agent, which is more concise and people understand why they're coming. You know, it's crazy. You like a startup, you have shirts made, you have hats made, and then you change the name. You're like, well,
Yeah.
um, it was a big decision. So we decided to take that and really focus on the representation information and get rid of some of the. We still have the retired athletes on the back end, but we're slowly putting them in, because right now we're growing 2 to 3 sports per month,
Right.
and so having all that new information coming, keeping the existing information up to date, it's a lot. And so
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
trying as we grow and expand, we're slowly bringing back some of those in, because then you know with each new sport you have hundreds of athletes, and as we
Right.
bring in more hundreds of athletes from the retired side, then we're adding on-air talent as well, and we're adding NIL, which that's the biggest beast we'll
Massive.
have dived into.
Right.
And so it's you know it's what keeps you up at night, right? It's like, oh my gosh, you're just getting inundated with data and information, but then at the end of the day, that's where the value is.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely, man. I mean, one of the things that I see across founders that I speak with is for them to figure out what should be the focus initially, and then it's easy to get lost
Mm.
amongst every new and shiny thing that you think might be worth going after, but then you realize fairly quickly that sometimes it's best to just focus on a few things initially at least, and then once the ball starts turning. um, no, fascinating, man. I mean, I guess this question is important to ask since there are parallels. I remember talking to you about it earlier as well. Is that you were an actor,
Mm.
and then jumping across from being an actor to a startup founder, what are the parallels you draw between, or the learnings you had from your career as an actor to being a sports tech founder?
Well, the interesting thing about being an actor is you kind of get to play every different um, profession there is.
Right.
I've played a tech founder before. I played a pastor. I've played a
Okay.
congressman. I've played like all these different things. But I think the biggest takeaway for me that I really brought into business and hands down is thick skin. Is my whole livelihood as an actor, you hear no. It's like imagine hearing no for 20 years. Like it's just what it is, right? And a lot of people can't take it. It's stepping back from it and saying it's not personal, it's business. It's hard to not take it personal when you go to a casting and you get rejected, right? And it's you're not tall enough, you're not good looking enough, weren't prepared enough, you were like whatever it may be. To take a step back for that and say, okay, how can I learn from it? How can I take the adjustment and bring that into the next one? I mean, some of the stuff you can't fix, like you're too tall, right? If the girl they've cast is 5'4" and you're 6'2", like they don't want to be shooting downwards over your shoulder. So
Right.
there's stuff like that you just can't get by. But again, it's still a no. And so it's taking that and saying like, okay, you know what? It's on to the next one, right? Like for every no you get excited because you're one step closer to a yes. And then once you
Right.
get that yes, it's all excitement and it's all balloons and party, but that ends, and then you got to do the cycle all over again. And the best thing you do is you get a pilot for a TV show, right? And you shoot the pilot, and then the studio decides not to pick it up. So then you went through all that excitement, and you have a hit show, and then they're like, no, it's not going to air.
Yeah.
And then you start the whole process over again. And that really stuck with me because when you got it started, when I did the startup, when I did Athleteagent, you hear no all the time.
Yeah.
Right. And especially on the investment side. And so it's how do you take that and move forward with it and know that they just weren't the right investor, because if they didn't understand the vision, then they wouldn't have been a good investor. Right. So
Right.
everything needs to align, and you'll go through 50 investors, and then you hit the one that believes in your idea and sees the same vision and has the same passion that you have, and you'll connect even better. It may take you 50 times to get there, but you get there, and then you get momentum. Then you start building some confidence, and that was the biggest takeaway for me, was just bringing that over into the business world and saying, I'm not taking this personally. I'm going to learn from it. Whatever I didn't do on that, and I would ask questions. I'd be like, when I first started out, and someone would say no, I'd say that, if you don't mind me asking, what really stood out, that, whether it was the business or my presentation, or, you're still learning how to pitch.
Yeah.
It's, especially when it's your own startup, like it's very much like acting. Like I'm going in every day and I'm pitching myself as a character, right? I'm selling myself. And with the startup, you're selling yourself to investors. It's the same thing. And so you want to learn from it. So I'd always ask questions, and, started to learn how to pitch, because you're throwing crap against the wall and hoping what sticks, right? And it's like, do they want to see? Some investors want you to walk through the deck, that slide by slide, and some don't want to see the deck. They just want to be told the story.
Right.
It's really difficult to figure out like which ones want. You just have to have everything ready and hope that like you do the right thing.
Right.
But walking away from it, and as well as hearing no, as soon as you step out of an audition room, it's gone. Right? Like I'm done with that. I'm not going to think about it again until I get the call that they want to see me again, or that I've got it right. And it's the same thing with investment or a business meeting or whatever. It's, you've laid it all out. You've done what you're going to do. Now just step away from it and put it out of your mind, and don't dwell on anything, because whatever's happened. So those two things really came across for me and have helped tremendously, because I don't think I would have made it this far had I not had that. Because you start up, you lose sleep, and this is never going to work. It's never going to work, and then you realize like, no, we have something here. Just power through it. You're going to get there, and it's a really tough thing to do.
It's tough, I know. And from what it sounds like, I think hearing your story tells me that as an actor, it really prepared you almost for the world you're in right now.
For the role of a lifetime.
Exactly. I mean, we as a new fund, even we have to face the same thing. It's like a startup. You are
Yep.
talking to a bunch of people, and most people might say no, but you're waiting for the one or two yes, which will change your life, and that's the way startups are as well. So that's uh, that's awesome. I mean, we live this out day in and day out in our lives. Um, but going back to Aaron Rodgers and his background and the season he's having with the NFL
Yeah.
currently, um, how has that helped significantly? Has that helped somewhat? Has it diluted? Does it continue to help? What's the status?
Um, I mean, I think having Aaron as my co-founder like helps tremendously. I mean, it's gotten me in a ton of doors that I probably wouldn't have gotten in prior, and helped get investors that I probably wouldn't have gotten prior. And when it's not season, he's very hands-on, and a lot of what you see, like the philanthropy on the site, was his idea,
Nice.
and really brought that mentality of the athlete to the site. Where like I could really tell you what was needed for acting.
Right.
He really could tell you what was needed for athletes and what he thought would benefit them, right? Like I never would have thought of the philanthropy side, but he's super charitable, and he just said, yeah, but charities want to work with athletes too. It's another avenue of a customer that could come and potentially get an athlete to work with them to come to their charitable event, and also for the athletes to showcase all the great things they're doing. And so it's stuff like that he's really contributed. The contract section of saying, like, if so-and-so is making like 30 million, you have to know that you're going to have to probably give him a pretty or her a steep offer,
Yeah.
as opposed to someone that's a rookie making $1 million or 750,000. The offers would be
Right.
different. So it's been super beneficial of having him. Like, couldn't have done it without him, honestly. The more he's in the league and in the press, the more beneficial it is, because the stronger his presence is. But another thing we really wanted to do with this was, it's athleteagent.com, right? Like, it's a standalone business. This isn't the Aaron Rodgers company. This is a business that has feet, that has a purpose, that has like a really great way of helping athletes and agents. Because a lot of agents do, like, going into this, I didn't know, are doing like 80-90% outbound to try and get endorsement deals for their clients.
Wow.
And so they're super happy to have this, because we're creating some inbound, and they want to know what businesses are subscribing, so they can do if Coca-Cola is subscribing and they want to get their athlete a drink brand deal, like, they know that they're looking. So
Right.
it's been beneficial on both sides, but we really wanted this to be a standalone business. And but again, I couldn't have done it without him, of his insight, his name. I mean, he's one of the goats.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I was laughing earlier with him about, if him and Phillip Rivers go to the Super Bowl, we'll have a combined age of 88.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Or
What a
amazing.
year. What a
No,
year for
seriously.
and for football.
It is.
Uh,
In all sports too. I mean, great World Series, like Game 7. One of them went to like 18 innings. It was like Game 3 or 4. Yeah,
Formula One.
Formula One's been fantastic. Like,
Yeah,
I love sports so much, and
yeah,
how amazing that I get to do two things that I love, which is film and sport.
absolutely. And I think you have a CEO, Sean O'Brien,
Yep.
right? So you have a professional CEO. Tell us a little more about what Sean has done and how has he helped, because you also have, like, you're an actor doing a tech
Mhm.
startup. You have Aaron Rodgers on the sports side, of course, and then you have Sean, who actually has the experience of the tech angle and the product angle.
Mhm.
It's important for investors who are listening to this to know.
That was a really tough. It wasn't a tough decision because he's fantastic. It was a tough decision personally, because I was co-founder and CEO for a long time, right? Especially when it was
Right.
OSDB, and that was another really hard part to get people to invest. Is I didn't have any background in tech startup besides playing one on TV, but I have done business. Aaron and I have a production company as well. So I know the in and outs. I can talk about it. But again, like investing in someone that's new to startup and not in a tech startup that doesn't have a tech background is a very difficult ask. Thankfully, a lot of people just understood the idea right away and believed in it. But I had to sit down with myself and friends and family and just kind of had this thought, and Nate Rabian, our other founder, and Aaron, and said, I hate to say this, but I feel like I've gotten the business as far as I can get it. I've gotten all these investors. I've made some decisions on like outsourcing tech. It's too expensive and too time consuming. I think it needs to be brought in-house, but I just don't know that I'm the person to find the right people for it. And also, we were generating tons of traffic with OSDB, like 250,000 people a month at the site, but we weren't really capitalizing on it with revenue. And I tried different avenues of different things, and I didn't think our contact information, which was our real differentiator and driver of revenue, was sound enough to be charging. And so I had that moment and asked a bunch of our investors, here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking about taking a step back and bringing someone in just for the next iteration, right? For the next pivot of this and where I think it should go, that can really help steer the company in the right direction, generate revenue, has a tech background, and can help find those people to come in and be in-house. Because I hated asking outsourcing, like, how much is this going to cost and how long is it going to take? Right? Yeah. When it's in-house, it's like, just get this done.
Right.
So one of our investors, Kevin Miller, owns a fantastic like SEO company in LA, one of the largest, called Grow. And he said, I think I have a guy for you. Like, I think you guys have hit it off. He's kind of has worn a ton of different hats. He's a startup founder, sold a couple businesses, has been a CMO, has been a CTO. And that's exactly like what we needed. Someone that had a tech hat, but also the CMO hat, so he would understand why this business needed to exist. And so we had some conversations. We hit it off. He had a clear vision of what he thought and where he thought the business needed to go. And since he's come in, it's just been, he brought tech in-house. The guys are fantastic. He was able to put them through a strenuous interview and understand that they knew what the hell they were talking about, which for me is like, talking to them is like going to a car dealership, right? Like they'd be like, oh, your car ramrod's out. And you're like, oh shit, okay, how much is that going to cost?
Right.
And so that was, he was able to put them through that, bring in really good team there. He was able to, because he'd really worked with different forms of revenue, to really bind that and get that going and understand kind of when we were doing the pivot that, yeah, we needed the blinders on. Here's what we need to focus on. And the core, which is the representation information, needs to be solid. And so like a bulk of our time was going through, we have almost 4,000 or 5,000 agents on the site.
Wow.
Was going through every email address. We added 2 APIs that check every email address every day to make sure that they're deliverable. If they're not deliverable, it either means yes, no point. You're not getting the information you're paying for. And if it's not deliverable, it lets us know, which means that they've probably changed agencies. So we should probably look into that. If their CAA email's not working, well, have they gone to WME? Where have they gone? And so then that sets an alarm bell for us to go check it. So he like stuff like that, just implementing and knowing that like, hey, we need to not one API but 2. We can set those up. It's going to check the information. And then the ability to move at such a rapid pace where we can add 2-3 sports a month, right? Like I was always had the vision of like 1 a month, right?
Yeah.
But with the team he's built and the ability that what he's done with the site the new back end, he changed everything up. He made our speed score really fast. Just different things that, as a non-tech, I never thought that like our speed test needed to be at a certain level that's, that you can now showcase in the deck, because it's really, with that amount of data and information, that it's that quick is magnificent thing, especially on the investor side and the user side. So he's been really great in implementing all that. We work really well together, and we are such a small team that we all wear a ton of hats. So he's made the shift of stepping back into COO a much easier transition, because I look back and know that I made the right choice. And everyone around me too was, Nate and Aaron were like, yeah, that's how you feel. And, we're never going to ask you to do that unless you do something screwed up, but you've gotten the business to where it is today, and you've built it. And if that's what you think, then let's do it. Let's try it. And so that's what we did. And very thankful, because he's kick ass.
Yeah, dude, that's amazing. I mean, it's not easy. I think what you just did there, for any startup founder or investor listening to this, it's not every day that you have someone who is so self-aware that who can make that decision. That's not easy. So I think kudos to you first of all to having to go into the process.
Yeah, it is tough, because hell, I wanted to keep pushing forward, but I'm very, very conscious of investors' dollars, and I know they invested not only in the business but in me, and I do not want to disappoint.
Right.
We've got some amazing people on the cap table, and they're all amazing.
Right.
But I got friends and different people. You don't want to squander, or you want everyone to be successful. And so that was a big driver for me too. Is like, I know I could probably do this, and I'll figure it out, because I've gotten this far. But I don't want my learning curve to cost people money.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I'm learning as we're going, and continue to, like, again, we all wear every hat. So I'm constantly learning, and that's the biggest thing, is taking everything in stride and seeing and learning from Sean.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome, dude. Going back to what you guys are building and adding 2 or 3 sports a month. I mean, that if you think about the scale of where you will end up, let's say 12 months, 24 months, 36 months, you're effectively building the go-to CRM for sports sponsorship in a way, right?
Right. Yeah.
So do you see Athlete Agent eventually evolving into a central operating system for brand athlete partnerships? What is your roadmap?
It's a very good question. Yes, but the thing we have going for us right now, and the reason we've made it a subscription and not necessarily gone into the deal flow component of it, of taking a cut, is we need the agents, right? And a lot of the agents want their 10% or 20% or whatever it may be, and don't want to cut anyone else in, and don't want to diminish their athlete's brand. And so right now we take nothing from the deal flow. We're just simply connectors, right? You come to us, find the information you need, and then you do the reach out, and hopefully get to work with the athlete, or have the athlete invest, or have them help with your charitable component, or your charity, whatever that may be. But we need them. And eventually, so the roadmap for us is, we may get there, but we want to work with the agents and the athletes to find what's suitable for all sides. Because if we end up controlling that inbound, then there is a path there, right, where everyone can get a taste. But right now, our roadmap in the time being is the ability for, much like IMDb Pro, the athletes, the agents, to control their own pages, right? So they'll subscribe, they'll have access, and then they will be able to update, right? So I was on a Zoom the other day with Jalen Waddle's endorsement agent, and we're looking over his page, and he said, "Can you take Raising Cane's off? That brand deal just ended." And I said, "Absolutely." Within 2 seconds, had it off. And he said, "I just don't want to, say a Chick-fil-A to come onto his page and see that he's with Raising Cane's and think that he's unavailable, right? Or there's a conflict."
Right.
And so that just shows how beneficial it is on both sides to keep it updated, because we're getting a bunch of inbound that they can see and then can reach out to the agent at GSE and hopefully make that connection. But if it says Raising Cane's and it's Chick-fil-A, then they're going to be like, oh, there's a conflict there, we can't use him.
Got it.
And so that was big, and that's why we're working together to keep these updated, because it behooves both sides, all three sides, us, the agent, and the athlete. And so we're working with them. We want to keep them, happy, and because they're the gatekeeper to helping us keep the site up to date. And thankfully, right now they're all working for it with us. We have a ton of inbound coming from new sports, being like, can you please add pickleball, right? So we've added pickleball this week, and that kind of comes into another point of we have 15 sports on the site right now. I'm really excited about adding the underserved sports like pickleball,
Right.
UFC. It's a major sport, but it's underserved in the fact of how the athletes get paid. And so those sports are super contingent on endorsement deals for their livelihood, right? Where they're not getting paid a lot of money, but they're making all their money off the court, off the field, whatever, out of the octagon. And so it's helping those athletes, find the new deal flows, find new brand deals, whatever it may be.
Love it. And do you get, Ryan? I'm sure there are athletes on there who might not have agents. I'm sure that happens, right? In that case, do you guys step in?
So there are some of the most of them have someone, or we have they'll be self-represented.
Right. Okay.
In that case, we put self-represented. We don't like giving away any personal information. It's just the representation information. But if someone is self-represented on the site, we have buttons on there to say update or request info. You can hit us up. Right now, we're at such early stages too. We're reaching out to all of our customers to make sure that they're happy. And is there anything else we can do? Anything else you're looking for? And so super, if someone's looking for someone that's self-represented or doesn't have contact information, we will find it for you. We'll figure out a way to get you a hold of them. Because we have the information, we just don't put it public, right? Because no one, Kyler Murray doesn't want his personal email address out there or anything like that. So we're able to find it or find connections to the athlete, and that's because of our connections to the sport, but through Aaron, athletes in general and the different agencies, we can usually figure it out. But if they have no one, we'll put self-represented on there, and it's very minimal, to be honest. I actually a couple weeks ago went through our entire database again, it took me a couple weeks, and made sure that every athlete had something on their contact information.
Wow, that's quite a task.
Yeah, it was a task. It took me a while, because Travis Kelce, we have 36, 11 points of contact for him.
Okay.
From literary agents to his endorsement agents to his theatrical agent to his on-field agent to his management team. We're starting to put financial advisors on there as well. So if you have a startup you want to help get funding for, you can reach out to their financial advisor.
Right.
So yeah,
that's amazing.
That took me a long time.
Yeah. And then I guess zooming out, I think it's great that in a way that you don't sort of compete with your agents, and they are sort of, it's more of a platform, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're a platform, it's a platform fee, whatever the agent could come to the platform and, hey, do a multi-million-dollar deal, but then you don't take any cut out of it. And that's a tricky one for an investor as well as a founder to balance out.
It is. And I think there's a point where, like I said, we'll get there, and it's our vision. Right. It's our vision to get there. We want to build the customer base. We want to build the relationships, and again, work with the agents to figure out what that is, right?
Yeah,
if we are bringing them a multi-billion-dollar deal, like, you know, we're doing the work, we're bringing the inbound for them. Like, there's a world where that's completely acceptable to take a cut, right?
Yeah.
And like you said, as an investor, like, that's a big chunk of revenue that we're leaving on the table. But right now, at the start of the business, they help so tremendously that we can't, I don't want to do anything. And we have quite a few heads of agencies that are invested with us, like Scott Boras being one of them, who's the biggest agent pretty much of all time in baseball. And so, again, work very closely. He's an investor and advisor. Work very closely with the Boras Corp of, how can we be helpful on the agency side? Like, they want to reverse search, like I mentioned earlier, to see what brands and businesses are subscribing so they can do the outreach to them. EPKs, they're like, we want to be able to use your page as an EPK, an electronic press kit, to send out. And so they're being, and all the agencies are being super helpful on that front. And we're starting to have those conversations of like, what does this look like down the road? What are some different options we can offer that would benefit you and the athletes? So we're having those conversations. It's just finding it a way that works on both sides.
Yeah. No, awesome. Well, it's a good problem to have. You have deals going on the platform, and then I guess it'll evolve. The systems and the relationships will evolve over time.
And I also think once they see it start working for them individually,
right.
They'll start coming to us and saying like, you brought me this, like, if you can bring me more, like, I'll make it worth your while, kind of things. And, and that'll, like you said, the relationship will then grow into, okay, we're doing business here. Like, I want to keep this going.
Exactly. I think it's also, it's about building trust amongst all the players in the ecosystem. So amazing story, man. I have to ask you about cricket.
Yeah.
From where I am, cricket is religion. So I gotta pick your brains on. I mean, what's happening with cricket? I'm sure it's on your radar.
It's on our radar, and actually, you'll be very happy to hear this. It is being finished today.
Nice.
So it should be live next week.
Wow.
So we have IPL all done and sorted, verified, back checked, run through the APIs, and it's completed. So yeah, you should be able to peruse next week and any IPL player you want.
That's amazing, man. Looking forward to that one.
Yeah, it's the second most watched sport in the world. Like, it's a beast. It's a beast of a sport.
It's a beast.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's it lasts for days.
Yeah. Thankfully, there are shorter versions of it now.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah.
But no, that's amazing. And there are so many leagues now. You have all these private leagues that you need to keep track of.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's great about this, right? And so the TAM is so much bigger. Is you have a movie that's made in the U.S., but it's viewed all over the world. But you have different sports for different countries, and then you have sub leagues within those sports, and it just continues to go down and down and down and down. And it's adding all those is being beneficial to all the athletes worldwide. We're adding IPL in F1. We added F1 and PGA. Like, we're starting to get global and bring that in, and that's a big interesting fact for me, and having spent time and living in the UK. European sports are incredible. I'm learning a ton about them, right? Like cricket, for example, and rugby. But European sports are about 5 years behind US sport in the mindset of brand deals, visibility of who represents them, contracts. It's all really withheld. And I think it's starting to head that way, and you start seeing some more player backed funds and some more EPL players starting to again with the appeal, it's like the top that are doing any kind of ads. But they all have a voice. They have a following. Like, in the UK, the football players are gods, and they have a voice. They're doing amazing things, and they need a platform like this. And I think, especially on the agents that I've talked to over there, say like it's headed that way. Like, trust me, we want it to be more visible too, because we're doing all the outbound. And so I think it's slowly getting there, and I'm glad that we're going to be at the forefront of it, right? To be able to have those leagues, have the players, and all that stuff. And as people start to be like, "Oh wow, like you mean I can get so and so to be the face of my brand? Like, let's do it." It's super exciting, and I don't mean that they're 5 years behind us is a bad thing. It's just a different mentality of how they see sport compared to the U.S. Right? We're like, I think LeBron said about like, especially in the U.S., an athlete's more than an athlete. And I think in a lot of different countries, an athlete's just an athlete. It's like, stay in your lane, do what you do, we'll do what we do.
Yeah. No, and also I think the opportunity of athletes that travel, like for example, you have Ronaldo, who is making a big move into the Saudi football market because the Middle East is football crazy.
Yeah.
And then I was just hearing a podcast from a friend of mine, and then he was saying that essentially football, the European equivalent of football, is super popular amongst the urban elite in India, where they are actually not following as much cricket, but they are following more of what's going on with the Bundesliga or the EPL. So you can imagine the cross cultural connections that are possible with brands that want to actually reach out to athletes in India or Middle East, and these can be foreign athletes. So I think that market is just going to explode.
And it's the visibility too of like, you have no idea who to reach out to.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like who reps that player? And if you're not in sport, and even if so, like it changes all the time. And especially with some US athletes, their best friend from college is their manager. Right? Or 10 people are running around saying they represent them and really don't, right? It's just buddies. So it's really, it's hard to find that clarity on like, who's the verified athlete here, or who should I be talking to? And so you're right. When that transcends, and it does, it's going to be really difficult to be like, okay, well, I started watching that now, but who the hell reps them? And we'll be able to provide that information.
Yeah, amazing, man. More power to you guys, Ryan. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
I always love chatting with you.
This was amazing, man. A lot of golden nuggets of startup journey, your own background, and of course, Athlete Agent. So looking forward to a wonderful holiday season and 2026.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.